All right, so what we're going to be starting off with today is something I'm writing about individuation. Now, a lot of you have probably heard of that term from Jung or many other authors, but what we're going to be doing is let's just start with the question. Have you ever wondered what your purpose was in life, or in human life in general? I guess how you fit into the puzzle, right? Now, what is the meaning of your life? That meaning often comes from being an individual, becoming yourself. Individuation, right? And we're going to be going over kind of the process. So, developing your own intuition is, I would say, key to becoming that inner self, that true version of you. Now, the way that we develop intuition, or the way that we use it even, is, let's just draw this circle. So we have this world of ideas where we grab ideas from this world. We all share it, but we're all kind of standing in a different angle to it, and we attach our intuition to it, and we kind of drain ideas in from there. Now, each person, some people have stronger ability to use their intuition a little bit better, a little bit more intuitive person. However, others are a little bit less, and that kind of differentiates how much you're able to get out of that. And those people are able to birth new ideas very quickly. Now, move on to, so, now perception is quite an important key to this puzzle, right? Replace your perception with imagination, and intuition is what we want to do to properly utilize the brain. You want to first imagine something and summon it with your intuition from that idea, and then mold the precept into what you want. So the precept being a perception, an observation that you make from the outer world. So if you start from something already existing, that concept is already determined. What you're trying to do here is, for example, you have a tree, right? And in your mind, so you have a tree, and in your mind, you try to imagine the tree. Try to picture it. Don't look at the one outside, but using your own imagination, try to add things onto that tree, right? So, for example, you can make it in any way how they make those fantasy movies with all those. You need to use your imagination to create something new, to birth a new idea. You want to make those concepts out of your intuition and birth them into real life afterwards using your perception, right? So you have that tree in your mind. Let's say you'll add vines to it, and I don't know, the vines are hanging up instead of down. They're defying gravity for whatever reason. And they have, for example, they are purple, let's say, which most vines are not from what I know. But you're starting to build up kind of your own new image. There's no tree like this, you know? And then you try to summon that image into real life. You've created that concept now of that tree, that purple vine tree, and you've come up with it using that intuition that you get. You formed the concept, and now through the love that you have for that idea, you try to birth it using these observations that you made from the outside, right? So you know that a tree needs roots, needs a place to be planted, blah blah blah. You need to use that to birth the idea. So now how do we apply this into our lives? Because obviously most people won't be using this for a tree, right? So you want to ask yourself, what is my intuition? What do I love doing? Like we said, you gotta kind of meditate on this, but what do I love doing? That love that you find, it becomes the power behind the idea. That's why most ideas kind of stay into that concept form, right? You think of something, it becomes a concept, and you do not birth it. Nothing comes from it into the real world. That's because you don't attach love to it. Love is the power that you need. You need to love that, what you're creating. That is the way that pure intuition comes around, and you could pull stuff from that source of the world of ideas. Right? So, let's do an exercise of if you could think about a time when you actually acted out of pure intuition. Now, this could have been recently or a long time ago. Some people go years without doing it. But that time when you acted out of pure intuition, not listening to the thoughts in your head, not listening to what someone else said, but just purely myself. It was my own decision, you know? I'll argue that a lot of the time when you make those type of decisions, they were the moments that you felt the most alive that you've ever felt. Because they come from you. They were the times when you were free. That is what an individual is. That is what a human is, and what a human is supposed to be. Now, obviously everyone has, I guess, jobs and responsibilities. Everyone has their own situation. How do we be free while, working a 9 to 5, clocking in every single day almost? And how do we go about this problem, right? Well, you need to become a force. You need to stamp yourself, that individuality into everything that you do in your life. Let's say you're a soldier, right? You could be a good soldier. However, the concept, that mental picture that you have of what a good soldier is, has already been given to you. You need to do A, B, C, D, and you're a good soldier. But is that free? Is that what what your soul wants? No, but you can add stuff that the soul wants. You can add that freedom into the job. If you're a creative person and you're on patrol, you could maybe draw from that mental picture that you had when you were on patrol, make sketches of it. Maybe if you enjoy short stories, you could write about some of the experiences that you had. You need to be making that stamp, doing something to make those jobs and responsibilities more of your own self. You need to figure out what your own self is and then stamp it onto everything that you do. Now, intuition often comes from the love that you have for what you're doing. So in order to unlock that intuitive state that you have in your mind, that kind of flow state, right? Athletes often talk about flow state. You need to love what you're doing in order to enter into that state. Now, when we do love it, freedom starts to arise from within us. You start to really become free. Don't listen to those voices in your head. Those are the real sabotagers. They're the things that stop you from getting to that intuitive flow state. Often people kind of skip in and out. You can't always be in flow state, right? You're always in it a little bit and then out. But some people got the ability to enter it on their own. Now, you need to stop those voices in your head that are telling you, let's save it for later. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's, save the money, whatever. They're not the real you. Those are a lot of stuff that is being placed in your head by society you live in, people around you telling you what's good, what's not good. It's not the real you. They often come from your lower emotions. Now, you have to just remember that those are not your true selves, right? Moving to that point a little bit more. See, nature makes humans natural beings, right? We need water, sunlight, food, etc. We're just, we're like some of the animals we see outside. That's what makes us part of Mother Nature, a creation of Mother Nature as well, right? And society makes us law-abiding in that same sense. Those are the two kind of forces acting on us, but only the individual can make himself free. Only you can make yourself free. Following those laws in society, that won't make you free. Drinking, water, sunlight, getting sunlight, food, that also won't make you free, right? Just living according to those two, you can't. You need to make yourself free. And we are only truly human to the extent that we are free. In those moments, like I said, in those moments that we do feel that freedom, that is when we're really free. That's when we're really human. No. All right. When you act with others, a free individual should be able to recognize that other people are in the process of being free individuals, or another free individual. You aren't an individual. You gotta kind of have that a little bit of me only energy, You may disagree with other people along this process. People may disagree with you, but you need to learn how to stand for yourself, stand your own ground. And you need to also learn that you might disagree with other people and you can't always stop them. They're going through their own individual process, right? So you can't just interfere with what they're doing. Even though you might think that you're helping them, a lot of time you're stopping them from being that individual, that's seeking that individuality out, and therefore stopping them from being free. So, the way that we love someone truly is by recognizing their own individuality, their own I, that I am, right? And loving them not for being similar to us, but for being themselves. You see, we love them because they are themselves, and we're often drawn to those people who kind of break out of that shell, break out of that mold, and become their own person. Those are the people that are often, let's just say, sometimes influencers, sometimes, but you'll see them outside and they don't really care. You're like, that's interesting. Wow, they're breaking away. They're being themselves, And those people need to be strong internally because they get challenged on all of their stuff because they're breaking the rules the cookie cutter society is carved for the individual. So they'll always get challenged. You see, the individual is a very dangerous person to a society because he functions outside of it. He functions like in, but a free person isn't restrained by those chains. And it must be claimed by the individual. It can only be you. No one else. It can only be you. So, I will leave, this video out with a quote from the book that I got this from. To live in love of our actions and to let live in the understanding of the other person's will is the fundamental maxim of free human beings. It's a quote by Rudolf Steiner from The Philosophy of Freedom. Thank you.